Unreliable Narrator with Tim Ebel and Ryan Hansen, the cab drivers of creativity, champions of the unknown, believably unbelievable. Film, TV, books, cosplay, and society issues. Interviews of creators, authors, and artists. Mayhem on the word-cutting floor. And now, join us to find out what's really going on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Unreliable Narrator podcast. I'm Ryan Hansen, and with me is
Tim Ebel.
And this is the show where we're going to talk about all kinds of good stuff. Last week, it was the Church of Satan. The week before that, it was about everything. And this week, we're going to talk to you about ideas and whether or not there is a lack of new ones.
This was actually something that was brought up to us by Martin, reading from the text he sent me. Another conversation piece you guys could chew on is why there's almost no new ideas for movies, TV, and books, and we just keep redoing and rebooting the same over and over again. Have we nearly reached the point of no new material to be discovered, almost like when explorers have found every place on the earth?
Well, that is definitely something I think is on the hearts and minds of a lot of think pieces on the internet, including ours. And looking at the general landscape of this, it sure does look that way. I mean, we had a brief text conversation before we jumped in tonight, and I think we're both in agreement there.
Yeah, more or less. I think part of it is fear. So when we're talking these big studios and actors, a lot of them aren't willing to take a chance on anything that's experimental. That might be part of it. Like if they've got a winning thing, they got to make millions and millions of dollars to even bother getting out of bed.
Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely a big driving factor for this. I think, Hollywood is a business, publishing is a business, television is a business, and they need a return on investment, right? And the more things move towards big budget spending, big tentpole pictures, big television show budgets, Game of Thrones, Westworld, all that kind of stuff. People are going to be looking towards the things that are going to give them the most return on investment. Mm-hmm. And if you were head of a Hollywood studio and you're sitting there and someone walked in with a brand new concept, something you'd never seen before, or they walked in with, we're going to say, a Marvel movie.
I was going to say small people time traveling, but that's been done.
Small people time traveling?
That's right.
Like shrunken people?
I was thinking time bandits.
Oh, small people.
Yeah.
I thought you were pitching me a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids time travel sequel.
Well, that has been done. Ant-Man.
Oh, geez. Yeah, now it has, hasn't it? Right when I thought we were treading on new soil here. No, it was a carpet this whole time, and you just pulled it right out from under me. Well, looking into a couple things here. Well, the first thing that's really obvious is I pulled up the box office results from the last 2019, 2018. So if you look at just the top 10 for this year, 9 out of 10 of them, the movie Us is the only original concept. Now, I haven't seen this movie. I want to really badly. But other than that, we have Endgame, Lion King, Captain Marvel, Toy Story 4, Spider-Man Far From Home, Aladdin, Us, John Wick 3, How to Train Your Dragon sequel, and then rounded off with The Secret Life of Pets 2. Mm-hmm. And then it goes down from there. Like the rest of the top 20 is a whole plethora of sequels or pre-existing properties, intellectual properties. Pretty crazy stuff.
And whenever I do see any of the newer ones, it seems like they just don't seem to make the same impact. So then no one's tempted to do it again, just like we were talking about.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a few people who can really get away with doing something original, I think. And you for every, say, Christopher Nolan, you have, or well, throw another name into the hat. Someone, Duffer Brothers. Well,
Hmm.
even those guys, like, they're all their stuff is a throwback, and a really nice throwback. I'm going to say, if you're the Duffer Brothers and you're listening, your stuff is pretty good. But still, it's just pulling from that nostalgia sense, and there's a whole bunch of tie-ins to something in the past.
Well,
I think,
recently they did a series of Swamp Thing, which is based on the comic book,
yeah,
and it's already failed, and they canceled it.
yeah, I was reading about that
And
one.
the reason for it canceling is because they tried to do something new with the story and diluted it. They didn't follow the story. So if
Oh,
they had
really?
actually stuck with the original idea, maybe they would have been able to pull it off.
Well, that's a bummer. I don't know much about the show. I haven't watched it, but I'm just looking in my little art drawer here, and I've got a really nice Swamp Thing sketch. Not to get off topic or anything, but I love Swamp Thing.
Yeah, he's great, and he was original at the time.
Yeah, that's too bad. That's too bad. There's another one though. It's just kind of a, they don't all work out, and
Mhm.
sometimes there's a, I don't know. You could look at, if you told me 10 years ago or 5 years ago even that they were going to make a Batman movie and it was going to be considered a failure and it wasn't going to have nipples on the bat suit and Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't going to be in it, I would have called you a big liar, a big huge liar. But lo and behold, I mean, here we are sitting on our, I don't know, umpteenth iteration of Batman, and here we finally have a failed Batman, where it's no one's desiring to see him again until he's in a new form. So they're not all. It's not all. I don't think safe territory for an
Well,
intellectual property to swim in.
I think so. We're really what we're talking about in some ways is tropes, right? So trope is a common plot, convention, idea, element, or theme that keeps recurring, and
Mm-hmm.
people get addicted to tropes, and then after a while they become a cliche and they don't want to talk about it anymore. Like when people were inventing sayings to start with, and before they were cliches, the first person that came up with bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, everybody thought he was a genius, for instance, right? And now that's
Yeah.
old news. Nobody cares about that anymore. Nobody even wants to hear that. Nobody even knows why you're grabbing birds at this point.
Or why there's two in the bush.
That's right.
Freaky.
What are those birds doing? But anyway, tropes, like tropes become kind of an addiction for a while. And right now we're addicted to superheroes. And
Yeah.
eventually that trope is going to be done. Nobody will ever want to see another superhero anything again. Hopefully that won't happen anytime soon, but eventually it will happen. So Batman, the whole trope of Batman is maybe done for now.
Could be. Although Warner Brothers they wouldn't believe you with a Batman movie coming out in 2021 with Robert Pattinson. But if I cock my head just a little over to the left and I look up on my bookshelf, I can see with my naked eye a copy of some books I've never read about Greek myths.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a little bit about the Greek myths, and I'm not a big scholar or anything like that about them, but you have, your strong guy Greek myth and your fast guy Greek myth and your sea dude Greek myth. And that sounds a lot like a whole bunch of the superheroes we see. Now, this stuff is thousands of years old, and it's been around forever and ever and ever. And people have been reading these stories, and they're not sick of these stories, and they just keep falling back in some form into the, I don't know, the
The,
common zeitgeist, I guess.
the collective unconsciousness,
Yeah,
I guess.
they kind of come around. So I mean, you look at these hero myths and everything like this from way back in, just about every culture has their hero myths and stuff, sun gods and Egyptian gods, and I'm sure anyone out there who's kind of familiar with this stuff can probably rattle off about six things where I'm stuck for words, but
Mm-hmm.
superheroes in one form or another have always been around. Now, right now, when I'm just kind of thinking of me, and maybe you grew up with, comic book superheroes, and there wasn't a whole lot of superheroes on the movie screen besides Superman and Batman when we were younger, and now it's just a flood of all these things. And I used to watch a lot of movies with my grandfathers, both of them, and you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Their superheroes were John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, those guys. The tough guy cowboy movies. And when you look at some of these cowboy movies, there's a lot of tropes that fit in with the superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Your Avengers, the Magnificent Seven, could kind of be the same thing. Punisher and Unforgiven, they've got similar parallels. So we've always had these same tropes. They just put on a different face, become more interesting to the people watching them at the time. Maybe that's a reflection of who we are as a people, I guess, and where we are collectively mentally, where one looks more appealing than the other. But they've always been there, arguably.
That's true.
Now, I think where people get upset is with everything out there. And let me just throw this out there, and we'll see. Tell me what you think of this, Tim, because it's kind of a laziness. Like when it comes to figuring stuff out, a good writer or creative team or whatever will recognize that they've taken something that's been seen 1,000 times, that's been put out there in some form or fashion, and that they don't have something that's a brand new idea. Like there aren't very, very many brand new ideas. But if you take that old idea, you put a new face on it, you kind of punch it up a little bit, and you put it out into something that people haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the real creativity lies. It's not so much in the finding of the idea as it is in the exploring of it.
That's pretty much what I was thinking too. I made a couple quick notes before we started here, and I was thinking stories, like, they're more about creating feelings than they are about creating new ideas. Nobody really cares about the idea if it just goes across like a lead balloon, right? They're looking for whatever feeling you can create in the audience. So if you can create the right atmosphere with your story, then you don't really care if it's totally unique. But like, you can take the same tropes and put them together in a different order. The reason I was thinking about this is because I was been watching Another Life with Katie Sackhoff, and I finished that first season off, and they have every single almost cliche trope from a science fiction outer space show. Like, they've got a black hole, they've got a slingshot through the corona of a star, which just about wrecks their shielding, right? They've got an AI that's wrestling with its feelings. Everyone hates the captain, so of course there's a mutiny. I don't know how much I should say about any of this stuff. There's an alien possession or two. Somebody's tether line gets broken and they're floating in outer space. What else? The aliens are an unmatchable, unstoppable force. Every trope possible is in this show. But towards the end, I was actually getting drawn into the fact that it was put together in a bit of a different way. Like I said before, it's probably not ever going to be, it's not ranking top in any of my science fiction shows, but it wasn't bad. I still enjoy watching all of those things. There's something, even though I've seen however many broken tether lines happen in outer space, I still, get that feeling of how crappy that would be if that happened. Like, you're stranded, totally isolated from everything, no way to signal anybody. You're almost done. I can think of at least 7, 8 movies I've seen that in now, and it's still working.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the things that you just reminded me of was the Interstellar, fairly recent. great movie, but has a lot of tropes that we've seen before, whether it was in, I can't remember which one came out first, whether it was Gravity or Interstellar. I think it was Gravity came out
Gravity
first.
came out first.
But and then before that, we've had a whole smorgasbord of abandoned in space movies. We've got the what was the one?
The
Red
Martian.
Planet, with The Martian, 2001, Apollo 13, you name it, and all these things. Like some of them are actual real events, and the tropes on them actually happened. So I mean, you've got there's just a universal language, I think, is what the tropes are, and it's something to kind of drum up that dread or terror, the fear of the unknown, the fear of being left alone, the fear of what you name it. Everyone has that sense of dread when you're confronted with that certain thing, and there's only a certain amount of ways you can show that to someone or to make them feel. But I agree wholeheartedly that it's more of about reusing these tropes is more of about getting a feeling from someone, and if you can do it in a way that they don't expect, then I think you're really in a creative spot.
What's that recent? It's an anime type show on Netflix. Has like 16 episodes. They're all short. I think it's Robots, Sex, Murder, something like that.
Oh, Love, Death, and Robots.
That's it. Wasn't that exact same trope of being stranded away from your spaceship in that one too? In low orbit?
Yeah, there was one like that, wasn't there? I'm trying to remember all of them.
And that
I remember
one was
the one,
a real bad one as far as long-term effects.
Yeah, that was that one I don't remember as much as I remember the weird blue guy in the swimming pool.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, that was unique. That there somebody actually did something groundbreaking.
Yeah. It's in those short ones. I think that's kind of one of those. It's interesting too. And we might have opened up a whole wormhole here. I think we just opened up an imagination wormhole. But with the advent of this artificial intelligence and everything like that, and the more we come to understand it, I'm wondering if that's going to create new tropes and new fears and stuff like this when we start amalgamating more with the machine. Mm-hmm. Hey, I haven't done any LSD today, but there's my thought.
That's a good point. So new tropes are going to have to come with new human territory. And right now we're rehashing. Sure, we have some new technology, but it's not changing the way we live our lives per se. Not really.
No, and it isn't. And there might be the same tropes. I mean, I'm a big fan of Black Mirror, and I think there's a lot of like just commonalities. If you really look at Black Mirror, everyone loves Black Mirror, and I do too. But realistically, is it any different than in form or fashion than the Twilight Zone? I don't think so. It's very similar to me.
Or the Outer Limits.
Or the Outer Limits. Once in a while, Tales from the Crypt, I guess. Mm-hmm. But either way, with any one of those things, I mean, the reason that everyone's so excited about it, myself included, and I don't know if you're a fan. But
yes, especially the Bandersnatch.
I haven't done it yet. I haven't watched it.
Now that is amazing. Because you can keep going. You can keep. There's no end to it. You can just keep going and try to get every single ending possible. So I was in there for like just about 6 hours. I explored it thoroughly.
Oh, really? Yeah, I haven't jumped in, and I started. I don't know. I think I picked Frosted Flakes, and then I thought it was really cool. But my wife and I like to watch that show together, so I felt like I was, committing the teladultery by watching the show without her. So I stopped, and we're gonna have to jump in one day. I don't know how that'll work out, but I'm excited for it. But that's getting back to the tropes of that show. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. You could see the same sort of concerns that people have. The fear of being left alone. I think they virtually cut John Hamm, and there's one episode early where they just cut his character right off from anything remote in reality, and he can see blurs of things, but he's not allowed to listen to them or partake in anything that they do because it's all just garbled and blurred from his vision and his and his hearing. He can't hear what they're saying. He can't see who's talking to him. He just sees that there's people all around, and he can't even interact with them in any sort of meaningful way, right? Just cut off from everything. It's the same trope as being cut off from your tether when you're out in outer space. You know, it produces that same guttural fear that everyone has of being left alone, but it's just shown to you in a different way. And I don't know, that's where the real exploring is. You know, you could say that we've explored the whole planet, but have we really? Like, people are finding new stuff here all the time. We know we've mapped everything out. We know what it looks like from space, but there's still people walking around on Earth finding new shit that they haven't found, right?
Well, and it's kind of the same thing as I've always felt it. Society and the way things are working always seems to get more subtle. Like, sure, there's nothing giant and new, but there's little bits that seem to be different, and everything has to be more complex. If you're talking about job qualifications, for instance, it used to be good enough to have this one certification, and now you need two to have the same job. Everything's always more complicated. And if you're talking about what you need to do to get your computer hooked up to the internet, it used to be, it had one protocol. Now it's got all these security protocols. Everything's always more complicated. Nothing is ever simpler, really. On the surface, sometimes things appear more simple, but they're not really. They're actually much more complicated than they were 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I'd wholly agree with that. It is the nature of things to get more simple, or not more simple, less simple, more complex, and to kind of give that illusion that it's staying the same or getting easier, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's another trope. You know what I found? I was doing some more research here, and I was looking around too. So say you're crafting a story, you're making up a story, whether that's a movie, which usually takes place in 3 acts, mm-hmm. or a television show, which is as many acts as you want until it's all over. Either way, many dramas, many tragedies, many comedies follow sort of more or less kind of, everyone goes back to Shakespeare. He's the guy he was like the Beatles of the words way back when in the day, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And he was writing all this stuff. And, when you look into it, he was borrowing concepts and stuff like that and putting spins on tropes that were already around in his time. Julius Caesar, Timon of Athens. I'm just kind of looking through a bunch of stuff here. Canterbury Tales. These are all things that were around before he was writing, and he was borrowing from some of these things when he was doing it. So, I mean, we go back that far, man, like back that far.
I guess that his big advantage was that he was one of the first ones to be recording in a way. Like he had a more open field. He had less competition. So even if he was borrowing tropes, a lot of people wouldn't have known it because they didn't look at so much stuff.
Well, that's the thing, right? If you're the first person to recognize what these tropes are and you can put them out in a fashionable way that people are just going to go rabid for, man, that's half the battle. I mean, I can't remember. I think I was listening to, I don't know, it was a while ago, and I was really into music, and I was listening to that guy. I can't remember his name, but he does the history of new music or whatever. I can't remember his name, which is a shame because I think he's got some really groovy insights. But one of the shows he did was on the Beatles. And at the advent of rock and roll or whatever, you had your Elvis coming out, and you had stuff that was before Elvis, Chuck Berry and Little Richard and all that cool stuff. And the Beatles kind of recognized, they sat down and they just started pounding out all these songs, and they did all this weird stuff, and they laid down, they've realized how it works, and they just explored everything. And he played a whole bunch of songs from other artists, and then he played them against the Beatles, and you could hear the similarities in the two. Now, it wasn't all Oasis, but there was a lot of similarities between people you wouldn't even know. I wish I could find it. I definitely. Well, we could put up a link to it or something like that, but I can't find it, or I should find it anyway. I can't remember what all the examples were, but his kind of thesis was that the Beatles were like those Marco Polos of rock and roll. They just did everything, they saw everything, they found everything, and they were able to put it down so quickly that everyone else just seemed like they were imitating when they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
They were just as creative, but they just had done it.
Of everybody.
Yeah, they did. If you're the first guy out of the gate and you can stick it out longer than everyone and just produce stuff, you're going to be the guy. But at the same time, were they doing anything super original? Sometimes, but other times they were copying what the cool kids were doing, right?
Did you mentioned the movie Yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that isn't out yet, is it?
It is. I saw it a couple weeks ago.
Okay. How was it?
I loved it. It does a whole bunch of tropes and turns them on their head, talking about, it's one of those movies. It's got a bit of a sci-fi kick to it, and it turns that expectation on its head. It's got a romance kick to it, and it kind of turns that on its head. It was a really good movie. I don't want to spoil too much of it in case you haven't seen it or someone who's listening has, but I'd recommend going to see it.
I've been thinking about it after I saw the preview for that one. Saw the trailer in front of, I don't remember what movie, but anyway, and I went out and downloaded a whole bunch of Beatles music and listened to it. Drove my wife nuts. But
she's not a fan.
Well, I think maybe listening to each song once again and then she's good.
Yeah. No, I'd say that's another good example where a guy understands the tropes that he's playing with. Danny Boyle and the screenwriter, I can't remember his name. He was the same guy. He worked on Love Actually, and I think he did the other one I really liked. It's about time travel. It's called, I think, About Time or something. Really good movie. But he worked on those, and he's got all these tropes in all of his movies, and he just understands how to manipulate them so that it's interesting again. He makes the stuff interesting again. I felt like I walked out of that movie and it was just more or less like I'd seen something that was fresh and that I hadn't seen before. People didn't make the same decisions that they'd make normally in a movie. And it subverted my expectations in a way that it made me happy. Like, it just was a good movie.
So there you just mentioned something that they could do that would be unique. They could have people react in the way that people would actually react once in a while. I mentioned previously in Prometheus, when you have two scientists who are supposedly trained scientists that make the dumbest decisions when they get on a planet. Instantaneously, they get on a planet and they just turn into two retards and they just, go hog wild and get themselves killed right away. And trained geologists and, people like that just wouldn't do that. Yeah, a xenobiologist wouldn't just walk up and try to pet some strange, obviously dangerous alien. Wouldn't do that. Wouldn't that be an interesting way to turn that around, to actually have people react in some sort of realistic fashion for a change?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely could, as long as you had. I think the real people see this kind of stuff and they get they get repulsed by it. Do you know what I mean? Like, people were off put by all the dumb stuff that happened in that movie. I happen to think that was an all right movie, but I'd have the same complaints about the people doing dumb stuff. You could have had, I don't know. Here I am. Sorry, Damon Lindelof, if you wrote that screenplay, I think that was you. But and there's a guy who's successfully subverted my expectations. But that's what that's all about. When you're playing with a trope, I think you got to have some way of recognizing, yes, I'm doing this trope. Yes, I know we've seen it before, but here I'm going to subvert it in such a way that I think this is a clever thing that no one's seen before, or that maybe you have seen before, but it's an interesting way of presenting it to you. And I don't think they did that. It was lazy, and they just kind of went, well, we need these guys to all start getting infected. Well, what's the best way? Well, here, cute snake face thing with teeth. I'm going to pet you with my helmet off. And then the rest is history, right?
But that's the thing, they could be prudent and still die.
Oh, for sure they could.
Talking about an alien movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of things those aliens could do because they don't exist, and therein is that where you can get super creative with all this stuff. I mean, one of my big pet peeves is, I'm a big Superman fan, and whenever someone puts out a Superman movie or is talking about writing one, they always talk about, well, he's just so strong and tough, and there's nothing that can beat him, and there's just no interest in there. But there is. I mean, there's a whole host of things you could do. One, he's not real, so you can do whatever you want. You can make up all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, in the comic books, they understand this stuff, and they just do interesting stories. And he got killed in the comic books, and it wasn't like, scheming Lex Luthor with his kryptonite. He just got beaten to death by a bigger, stronger guy. I mean, there's always a bigger, stronger guy. And to not acknowledge that you can do anything you want is just kind of a lack of interest and lazy writing, as far as I'm concerned. And it's easy to do that with any sort of, I guess, franchise or whatever, where you're playing with an existing set of rules, and the alien world certainly has an existing set of rules and tropes that it has to follow. I mean, we all know what that's all about. The alien hugs your face, puts the baby in your belly, it pops out of your chest at dinner time, and then runs amok, and everyone dies. And more or less, there's about 5 or 6 things in that whole premise that have to happen in an alien movie. Mm-hmm. But everything else can be all something else. Sometimes it's not, and people don't respond to it really well. We haven't even touched on, I'm just realizing, prequels.
True enough. Prequels. There's certain prequels that I want to like, but because they're a prequel, I have never even finished. Like, for instance, Caprica. Caprica is a prequel of one of my favorite shows of all time, Battlestar Galactica, the remake. Mm-hmm. And I should want more Battlestar Galactica. But the problem is it's happening previously, so I almost can't make myself do it.
Well, I think what happens with the prequel thing, and I think the biggest failures that happen, for me anyway, is in a reboot, number one, and number two is a prequel. I think if anything is going to fail conceptually, it's going to be one of those two things. Mm-hmm. And I think reboots are more susceptible to it. But prequels are certainly, and I think it's a different mechanism that drives it. So when you're looking at the reboot, I'm going to cherry pick a really nice example, RoboCop.
Okay.
You've got all the makings there of something that could work. You've got, they tried the satire, they tried to put it into today's times, but they changed everything about the character. They changed the way he looks, the way he operates, all that stuff, and tried to just stick it into our times. And I think the fundamental thing that was missed about that movie was I don't know, you could argue about a million things. It was that people missed the look of it. People missed the violence. People missed the crude nature of it. The way it was just, like that movie was just puked onto the screen. And they didn't apologize for it. And now you have this very refined movie that tries to do the same thing, but in a more refined way that people are going to find a lot more palatable. And it just didn't work on any level for me. And it should have. It had all the right people in it. It had all the right talented directors, talented writers, but it just didn't. And I'm not interested in seeing that RoboCop ever again. And from what I understand, they are doing another RoboCop, and this time it is the old RoboCop that people know and love. Yeah.
So I watched the new RoboCop, and while you're talking about it, I can't remember even a single detail except for his face. That's it.
That's it.
It was very bland to me.
Now,
I remember the original ones.
That's what I was going to say. Is I'll ask you to like name, just talk about 3 scenes from the old RoboCop. Go.
Which one? There's the scene where the guy accidentally gets covered in acid when that barrel breaks. There's a scene where he was programmed incorrectly in number 2, I think, where he was out on the street telling kids to stop doing crime, and they were laughing at him. Was that number 2 or number 3? I think that was number 2. There was the scene where the guy was dealing drugs, which were in interesting little squeeze containers. You just pop into your neck. I don't remember the name of the drug. And they managed to capture RoboCop, and they were chiseling through his faceplate. There's that scene where he has the drill and he's opening his head in number 1.
Oh, there's just a whole host of things.
Oh yeah. What about that one robot, that RoboCop replacement, which was totally robot, which fell down the stairs because it couldn't do stairs?
Ed 209, yeah. He blows that guy up on the big table, and everyone's like, "Oh, what do you do? That's life in the big city." Like nothing ever happened.
Mm-hmm. What about the SUX 3000? That car that electrocutes you with that band that comes around you when you're trying to steal it?
Oh yeah.
Sunblock, that blue sunblock where the girl just covers herself right up.
Sunblock 5000. Yeah. We just have no ozone layer. There's, see what it means? Like it just, that stuff sticks in your head. And it was a pulpy movie. It relied on a bunch of tropes, whether or not that was a Frankenstein kind of parable.
Mm-hmm.
A whole, you could just fold that right over into that. So it was one of those ones where you could just trace that back to its lineage and say, oh, there you go, Mary Shelley, Frankenstein in a cop form, right? But they did it well. They were able to take that concept. They drove home something different that you hadn't seen before and put a little twist on it and turned it into something that everyone loves to this day. And it stands for itself. The sequel or the remake, reboot, whatever it is, I'm just sorry, it didn't cut the mustard. That's the way it goes. The reboot thing, I don't know. It's a tough one. Like they're in this new stage where they always found, for example, right now we've got 2 movies in the theater of which I've seen before. There's Aladdin and The Lion King, both great movies, both cartoons. And I know the stories of each one of those, and I don't know that there's anything new for me to see in either one of those movies other than real people and amazing visuals. I don't know that that's enough for me to go.
I didn't go to see The Lion King, but I did go to Aladdin because everybody reported that one was pretty good, and I agree. I was surprised with that one. They did a few little things that are different. And they pulled it off. At first, I was very not ready to accept, Will Smith as a Blue character. That was almost a deal breaker right off the bat, but it worked.
Yeah, I think everyone just rejected that special effect when they first saw it, and it was just really jarring.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's, Disney's going to recycle this stuff too. I'm guilty. I watched Maleficent, and I really liked that movie. Mm-hmm. And I realized that was kind of like a fresh take on the whole mythology of that movie or the backstory of that movie, one that you didn't see already. Mm-hmm. Which is, I thought that was an interesting way of telling me something that I hadn't seen before, showing me something I hadn't seen before. Without
that one may be kind of a take on the witch from I can't remember the name of the book now, but in one of the witches that was out to get Dorothy.
Oh, you're talking about Wicked.
Yeah, Wicked. Isn't that basically a take on Wicked?
Yeah, a revisionist history of something that you already know, some sort of property that you already know. Yeah, I mean, same thing. There aren't any. I think it's.
We've come full circle now. We're back to there isn't anything new happening.
No, but there are things to be excited about. I mean, I think about this kind of stuff all the time, and for every Avengers Endgame that comes out or comic book movie that comes out, and I keep telling people this, that if you would have told 14-year-old me that in 2019 there would be no shortage of Star Wars and superhero movies and that you were going to have a movie with the Hulk and Thor and Iron Man and all the dudes in it, I would have told you you're a big fat liar. But that's the world we live in now. And I think even though I love all that stuff, just part of me just really needs to see something And when I do see something that I haven't seen before, I love it. And I'll go back for that. And now I'm trying to search that stuff out more than I was before,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that those comic book movies are always going to be there. I know that, I can go back and see that whenever I want, or I'm not going to, you're not going to lose that experience. But these other ones are so special. Like yesterday we went to see in the theater, and it was just, I don't know, it was amazing. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we went to see in the theater, and it was something I hadn't seen before, about something I had seen before, and it was great, and it was original, and it came from someone who understood how to work the tropes and everything. Just people are going to look for that stuff, and they're going to find it. It might not be in the same places that they've always found it, but it's always going to be there. There's always going to be people who understand how to worm that stuff in.
That's right. Like not that long ago, Deadpool, the first one, that was an original take on old ideas. Now, of course, that's not original anymore. So I don't know how number 3 is going to be. But
no. And, Deadpool was a spoof of a DC character in the first place. I don't know if you knew that.
Yes.
But they just rolled, everything about that guy was just done better than what someone else had done, arguably. If there's anyone out there who loves Deathstroke, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, it was Deathstroke. I did like him. He originally showed up in the Teen Titans, correct?
Yeah, he's everywhere now. Now he's in Justice League, and I don't know. It's he's another one of those guys. He just popped into the world and went, "Hey, look at me! I'm going to do all this stuff different." And the thing about him that I like is he makes fun of all the tropes, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can't beat him, just make fun of him. That's his slogan, and it works. Right? They found an original way to make me look at that superhero landing and go, "That's not stupid. I love it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know.
There's going to be the odd occasional time where people take the same ideas and put them together in a new way. Like for instance, the wheel has been around for whenever the wheel originally got invented. That guy never imagined that there was going to be little kids running around with wheelie shoes. And, just playing around with the wheels on their shoes for fun. That he had no idea that was coming. It's still using a wheel, so it's not a brand new idea, but it's a brand new use of an old idea.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that if I ever invented a time machine, I'm going to steal your idea. I'm going to take this as inspiration. I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to find the guy who invented the wheel, and I'm going to take my iPad with me, and I'm going to blow that guy's fucking mind.
And look what you were the cause of.
Look what you did. They fill them with air, man. They fill them with air.
That's interesting.
That's a unique
use of a time machine. Going back to torture the inventors of things.
Well, I just want to show them, I want to really brighten their lives and show them that they made a difference. I know you just made it to get logs up to the cave quicker, but look what you did, dude.
Yeah. While you're
commerce industry.
While you're at it, you can take a plastic bag back in time and find the first guy that sewed a piece of leather together to hold something in.
Yeah. Yeah.
The foundational inventions. The wheel and the bag.
Yeah. Just show them guys walking around with golf clubs in leather bags. Women walking around with purses. Everyone's walking around with purses. Look what you did, dude. It's amazing.
Airbags. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know. See, this goes into a hole. We open up another wormhole here. And now I'm thinking that there's so many cool things in the world. Like there's so many things that are amazing now that we just glance by because we just see them every day. But, several years ago, just not that long ago, it was like unheard of that we had this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. And none of these things are new. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. Music players that went all the way from the phonograph to, I don't know what's next. Some sort of laser holograph deal, or maybe cellular recording. Maybe we'll just record it right into our DNA. You can listen to your own body. But it's basically the same idea. Recording music.
Yeah. On the fly. Well, you're dreaming. I don't know. I just, if anyone takes anything away from this, I just want to put it out there, a positive spin that there is no new shit, but there will always be cool shit.
Exactly.
I guess that's the most succinct way of putting it. If you can't look forward to people creating new things, then I think that's out the window. I mean, you know, there's a certain amount of new things, then you can at least look forward to people showing you that old thing in a way that makes you like it again.
So that's what we don't really need new things. We just need surprising things.
Yeah.
Unexpected things.
That's right.
Doesn't
I couldn't
have to
have put
be
it any
new.
better.
It just has to show up different.
That's right. Put a new coat of paint on that old car, right? We're not squishing all the old cars, we're restoring them. You know, they're still good.
Yeah.
One day we'll put electric engines in them.
Yeah. We need to get that Chevette with an electric engine.
Dude, how are you going
no gas to light it on fire anymore.
That's what I was going to say. Like, if I need a flaming one, how's that going to start on fire?
Plastic.
I don't know if I like this anymore.
Burns. Once you get plastic going, you can't put it out.
I need that flaming Chevette. Well.
Okay, well, I think this idea is no longer new.
No, I think we've clubbed it to death. Mm-hmm. Put a new spin on it, dressed it up, all fancy, and threw it out in the world to go and make another one.
That's right. So maybe we should propose that they no longer do prequels. Instead, they take the original idea back in time with a time machine and show it to new people. People that have never seen it before, they can prequel their own show.
You know what I think it'd be cool is if you wanted to do a prequel, just don't even tell me you're doing it, right? Like, don't tell me it's a Star Wars movie. Just have it start off in some deserty place, and then all of a sudden, you know, Darth Vader pops up, and call it Bob Looks for Lunch in the desert or something. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, whack! I'm surprised. That would have been better than episode 1. I don't want to crap on episode 1 either. I like that movie. I like all that stuff, and I'm glad that they exist. But I don't know. There was no surprise for it. I knew it was going to happen. Everyone was going to die, and there was going to be Darth Vader, and that was it. Oh, jeez.
One franchise is going forth and back at the same time because we're having prequels in Star Trek at the same time that we're having a new show coming out. With rehashes of all the same old ideas, I'm sure, but it's moved forward in the future. Or at least in the future.
Well, I have to tell you that one of the most exciting times in my life was I don't know, I want to say 1986 or 87 when when Star Trek The Next Generation first came out. And one of the things I liked about it was that you still had your Enterprise, you still had your dudes. All the people were kind of, they all had the same job, but it was different people doing it. And they all had different personalities and everything like that than the people who were there before. So you had that familiarity. You had that ship. You had the gadgets and the aliens and all that stuff, the same ones that you knew and loved.
Yeah, the same tropes.
Yeah, but instead of the philandering Kirk, you got the diplomatic and wise Picard, and you got something rich out of that, and you got to get into that character and, you know, just swim in that for, you know, 8 seasons or whatever that went on, and it was great. And they kept that going with all the other shows, and those were arguably really good too. I don't know much about them. I wasn't a big watcher of it, but I just really like that. And that's, you know, here we are. We got Captain Kirk again and Spock and all that stuff, and I'm just ready. They've been there. They've done it. We can let them go.
You'd think so. It's just like, are we going to go back and reboot Star Wars 4?
Well, I don't think you need to. I mean, there's, you know, again, it's the same thing that I talked about with the Superman stuff. It's a lazy thinking that you have to have the connection to these old things and these old characters. You have a whole realistically, you've built a world or a universe where there's a whole galaxy of people to explore, and not all of them are Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. You could go out and do anything you want, and there's a whole just make up shit, make up bullshit. Isn't that how we used to do it? Just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Eventually, you get that wheel, and people are riding around on skate shoes that light up.
Okay, now we really have flogged it.
Oh yeah, we're right back to it.
But it was worth it.
I think so. I think it was worth it. We might have to revisit this one.
Yes, we might have to do a prequel of this.
Yeah, so we'll go back and we'll call this one we'll call the next one episode 3.5.
3.5.
The prequel. Yeah, the prequel. When we can't do it right away though. We're gonna have to give it 20 years.
Maybe we could reboot it.
Oh, a do-over?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how people respond first.
We'll reboot it in about a year.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll
if it was a really good one.
I'm really interested to see the box office on this one.
That's right. Maybe we can get a franchise out of it.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it.
That's right. We better get out of here before we flog this way too far.
You bet. Well, I just want to say to anyone who's listening, thanks for listening. And thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks all you listeners. And if you have any more questions for us, please send them along. Everybody have a great night, afternoon, morning, middle of the night, whatever it is.
Signing off.
This has been Unreliable Narrator with Ryan Hansen and Tim Ebel. Join us next time when we discover the easiest method to fight off truth decay using cutting-edge mental hygiene products.